This is a brief video demonstrating the use of the Wedge variable length backbore. Backbore length has an important role in adjusting the inherently out of tune nature of the pitch of the B flat and C trumpets. Typically, most trumpets are somewhat flat on the fourth space E and the cluster of notes that are attached to that, so the E flat, the D, the C sharp. And this problem is more pronounced on the higher trumpets like the C trumpet. As a result, many manufacturers will produce a backbore of a somewhat shorter length, and here's an example of a Wedge B flat length backbore and a C length backbore. You can see it's about 1/4 of an inch shorter. It's similar to the length of a, it makes the overall mouthpiece similar in length to a Monette mouthpiece, for example. And that's great. That will, on many instruments, improve the pitch and bring that fourth space E, that fifth partial, up into better in tune. The problem is that sometimes that effect will bleed into the sixth partial and you end up with a sharp G. Now, a flat E we can manage by using alternate fingerings or by looping it up to some extent, but it's very difficult to manage a sharp G on a B flat or C trumpet unless you have a pitch finder built in. It's just hard to lip down that G. It's a very stable slotted note, which tends to be sharp for a lot of players. So one of the ways to deal with that would be to fine tune the length of the backbore to the point that you can get the E better in tune before the G goes sharp. The other effect that backbore length has is the related to the depth of the cup. Deeper cups tend to play better in tune with a somewhat shorter backbore, and shallower cups tend to play better in tune with a somewhat longer backbore. So again, there's an advantage in being able to tune the backbore length to the depth of the cup. Again, the problem though is that most manufacturers make a long or a short backbore, nothing in between. Some manufacturers do make their mouthpieces of various length in order to match the cup depth, which is a good approach. The problem is that if you're dealing with a two-part system with a top and a backbore, that solution doesn't work. So that's why we invented the Wedge variable length backbore. So let me just move these guys out of the way and show you how this works. So I'm just going to remove the top. This is a Wedge hybrid top attached to this backbore, and the backbore is in a number of components. So this is where it's set up to work with a Wedge top. It will also work with a top from other manufacturers. So this sleeve screws off, and then if you're using a non-Wedge mouthpiece, you can just attach that, and that will now work with any other manufacturer's top. In order to adjust the backbore length, one screws off this cover, and that reveals a threaded underpart. I'll just take this apart so you can see the various components. So this is the shank, and this is the body of the mouthpiece with a set screw here, a locking collar that you can use to adjust where you want this shank to sit. And the size is, this is a medium large 25 backbore. So if I want a full length backbore, I can adjust this to a predetermined place on the threads, and we make these threads interrupted so you can pick your spot based on your needs. And so for example, if I wanted to have a backbore of this length, I adjust it to there. I can then adjust my shank, attach it, and I can compare that to the length of a full-length B-flat backbore and see that actually now it's pretty close, actually a little bit longer than a normal B-flat backbore, which in some cases can be advantageous with a really shallow mouthpiece. But if I want to make it similar to a B-flat, I know I have to go a little bit higher with the thread. So now it's going to be very close to a B-flat backbore. Then I can attach either the heavy collar or the regular weight collar and screw that down, and then attach the top. And now I can test that against a tuner and decide if I'm happy with the way the E and the G sit with that mouthpiece. Now, if I find that my E is sitting flat, I can again remove this section. I can adjust the collar, dial it up in an infinite number of various locations, screw it back down, lock it in place. And I can test the pitch like this without having to put the collar back on while I'm experimenting. But then once I've determined that I've reached the right balance of where that E sits relative to the G, I can put the collar back on again. And attach the top. And you're good to go. This is now, let's see, about roughly the same length as our C backbore. It's a little bit longer, and that's probably where I put it when using it with my AR resonance trumpet. If I want to go shorter than that, let's say I want to use this with my AR resonance C trumpet, which likes a very short backbore, I can screw this collar all the way up and tighten it there. That gives me a backbore that's shorter than our normal, about the same length actually as our normal C backbore. But if I want to go even shorter, in order to have a backbore that's shorter than our C backbore, I can just remove this collar altogether. Reassemble the backbore. And now I have a backbore that is shorter than our regular C backbore by, not quite a quarter of an inch, but pretty close. Again, put either the heavyweight or the regular weight sleeve back on. Attach your top, and you're good to go. So that is the Wedge variable length backbore. Thanks for watching.